Okay, so now that we have created the calculated column and a measure, for instance, our measure in here is called average edad, and then our calculated column is calculate underscore age. But before anything else, I would like to create another measure because my intention in creating a visualization is for me to be able to determine the average age of a certain school or category or certain area, and I need to determine the retirable employees in a particular school or a particular coverage in based on our data set. So before I'll do that, we need to create a measure again for our uh, measure to determine a retirable employee. So in this case, we will try to create retirable as our measure name, and then we need to calculate, and our calculation should just involve counting the rows of uh, our worksheet in PSI Pop, wherein uh, the calculated age is greater than 59. So in other words, we have to identify and calculate those rows with values greater than 59. Okay, so let's proceed with that measure, and then let's try to have it as a visual. All right, so retirable in this case, I'll use a card. So we have identified that there are 54 retirable employees based on our data set. Okay, now let's proceed with our visualization. For instance, we want to create a slider. Okay, by the way, we are now into creating different visuals. Okay, so as you can see, it is just a matter of dragging and dropping different columns and calculated values in here, whether calculated column or a measure. So in this case, I have identified this category as a visual, and then I want to select a slicer out of it, meaning to say that I will have this particular field as a field to filter the context that I want to present in my visual. So for instance, in this case, when I have this slicer now, I can just simply select each value of the category. And as you can see, the values of our measures dynamically change according to the value of the slicer. Okay, that is one visual that we have created. Okay, another is, for instance, if we want to determine how many male or female in a particular category. Okay, so as you can see here, I have just simply drag and drop that particular column, which is 6, but we haven't determined yet the values or the count for each value. For instance, you have male, female, and then you need to exclude this one, the empty or blank data point. So this is actually part of your data cleaning supposed to be. But Power BI also detects null values wherein you can probably exclude if you want. Normally, you will exclude that. And then we will compute based on, for instance, the unique number of employees based on their item number. Okay, so if we simply drag the item number here, sorry, and then we aggregate it as a count, so you can easily determine, okay, the number of female and male employees. That is through a visual called table, but you can also make use of a pie chart as a visual or a donut chart, for instance. So in this case, we have created a donut chart for our visual for the gender or sex. In this case, we just have to change the styling, perhaps the title, or if you want, you can edit or rename this particular visual. Okay, count of six, all right, or we can change it or reformat it this way. So change the title, count by six, right? And then if you want to change the colors, you can change the visual in the slices. For instance, if you want female to be pink and male to be blue, so just like that. And if you want to add more details, you can check out the formatting of this particular visual. You can turn on or off the data labels, okay? And you can edit the data labels according to the position or any other parameters therein. For instance, the font size, okay, of the data labels, or you can create or you can change the colors of the data labels depending on your requirements. So it's just a matter of identifying the values of each of these parameters in here. Okay? So if you want to disable the title, you can do that. But normally you need to have a title for each visual. Okay, let's simplify. Okay, and let's say, for instance, we move it to the right, and then what's next? We determine the number of different eligibilities, so we exclude the blank one. Okay, and then we count it according to the unique values of based on the item numbers. So in here, when you check the visualization, as you can see, the columns is not summarized or aggregated yet. So you can count based on eligibility. And then after you have determined the count using this visual, without so much calculation from your end, you can just simply select a visual, or maybe in this case we don't use a donut chart or a pie chart. Instead, we make use of this particular bar, clustered bar chart, and then we format it the way we formatted our first as the other visual. So for instance, we want to change or add data labels. Okay, and then we want to change, uh, hold on, let me check. Bars, the colors of each bar. So we say yellow, and then for instance, we remove the title of the x-axis, and then we retain the title of the y-axis. You can also do that. And then you change the title of this particular visual. So we say count of items per eligibility. Okay, so let's just simply say it's items per eligibility. Okay, so that's one way. And then let's say if you want to change this visual to a clustered column chart, you can also do that. And then, for instance, we want to reformat it like this. And then we will add one more. Hold on, let me check if I can add one more. Let's say we provide the corrected DOB. Let's just check the year here, or let's say that one. And then we make a line chart so that we can count the number of personnel per birth year, for instance. So let's say that one. Okay. So we have created a line chart for that. So from 1957 to the most recent one, 1999 of the birth year. Okay, as a visual. Now you have to remember that there are certain aggregations we selected here in the corrected DOB. So if you select corrected DOB, you can remove the day, of course, because it will be very fine in terms of the spread of that particular line chart. So we also remove the chart, and then we remove the quarter so that only the year will be counted. So for instance, in 1970, as a birth year, there are 24 employees. So, okay. So this is how you probably present the number of personnel per birth year. So let's say we change the title here, personnel, count of personnel per birth year. Okay. And then if we want to add our final visual here, let's say we want to provide a map, you select, oops, sorry, undo. We will drag a map here. Okay, that's it. Let's say we move this a little bit here. Okay, it's up to you to format your data visualization. Okay, so in my case, it's just all white for now. But yeah, later on you can adjust the styles. So in here, I want to make use of this particular value, latitude and longitude, so that I can map out the schools perhaps. So longitude will move here, and then latitude will move here. Okay, as you can see, you have this data points presented as a map. Now, the bubble size will determine the number of, for instance, personnel. Okay? So how do we count the number of personnel? We count the number of items. All right? So as you can see, count as an aggregation. This is some sort of an implicit measure. Okay? So as you can see, this portion here, you have a count of item number around 717. Okay? And then there are other areas where the count is 11, and then count is 3, and it depends on the number of items in that particular area. So again, if you want to format it the way we formatted other visuals before, so for instance, the title, uh, map of personnel, for example, spread. All right. So that is an example of how data visualization is simply created in Power BI. If you want to further, what do you call this, format the visuals. So for instance, in this case, I will maybe create a different background color. And then this one, I'll also change the background color to one a little bit lighter. Okay. And then this one will move a little bit higher. Okay. You can also change the slicer into a drop down list. So for instance, you want to select all categories, or maybe you can select one category and it will adjust according to the values or the context being selected. So that is how powerful Power BI is. The visualization will depend on the relationship that you have created in your data model. Of course, when you filter out each of these visual, for instance, you select let or you select a data point within your visual, it dynamically changes to a new illustration based on your data set. So with that, I think I have covered how you create your own visual, and I hope that you can make use of this very powerful tool using different visualization techniques. I cannot cover all of the different types of visuals here because it would be best for you to get your hands dirty with it, play around, and try all the visuals that are available in this Power BI desktop application, and you will see how powerful this application is. Thank you very much and good afternoon.